It is the summer of 1942. Rommel's Afrika Korps is pushing hard across the western desert, and somewhere behind German lines, a small group of men is preparing to walk 30 miles through the dark to blow up a fuel depot they were never supposed to be anywhere near. These are not conventional soldiers in any recognizable sense. The Special Air Service was founded the previous year by a 25-year-old lieutenant named David Sterling, on the argument that a handful of the right men placed in the right spot could do more damage than a full brigade. High Command thought the idea was borderline insane. Sterling went ahead anyway. By the time the North Africa campaign ended, SAS raiders had destroyed more Axis aircraft on the ground than the entire RAF had managed in the air. Today, we are going through every piece of kit an SAS operator carried on a desert raid in 1942 and 1943, from the weapons on his belt to the sand in his boots. This is the complete loadout. Before we go deeper into how the SAS rewrote desert warfare, subscribe for real military history. Vickers K. If you were riding into a German airfield on the back of a Jeep at 40 miles an hour with the intention of shooting everything that moved, this is what you wanted in your hands. The Vickers K was originally an aircraft observer's gun, stripped out of obsolete planes and repurposed by the SAS with characteristic ingenuity. It fired .303 rounds from a 100-round Pan magazine at around 950 rounds per minute and could be paired in twin mounts on SAS Jeeps, giving a single vehicle an absolutely devastating volume of fire. The gun was reliable in desert conditions, which mattered more than almost anything else when you were 3 days from the nearest friendly position. SAS Jeep columns would roar through enemy airfields in broad daylight sometimes, both guns going, lighting up parked aircraft before anyone on the ground could organize a coherent response. By the time the Germans figured out what was happening, the Jeeps were already gone. Thompson's submachine gun. The Thompson was not a British weapon by origin, but the SAS adopted it with enthusiasm. It fired the .45 ACP round from a 20 or 30 round box magazine with a stopping power that made it extremely convincing at close range. For the kind of work the SAS was doing, clearing a sentry post quietly, moving through an airfield at night, fighting their way back to vehicles, the Thompson's weight and bulk were worth tolerating. It was heavy at over 10 pounds loaded, and the .45 round dropped off badly past 50 meters. But inside that range, it was extremely effective, and soldiers who carried it knew they were unlikely to be fighting at distance anyway. The SAS frequently acquired weapons from whoever they could, and American kit flowing through Cairo supply channels made the Thompson accessible early in the unit's history. Colt 1911 pistol. Standard sidearm for many SAS operators, again reflecting American supply lines, and personal preference over issued British equipment. The 1911 fired the same .45A CP round as the Thompson from a 7-round magazine, reliable, accurate at close range, and flat enough to carry on the hip without getting in the way during long foot approaches. For an operator who might be lying still in the desert for hours watching a target before moving in, having a pistol as a backup required almost no additional burden. Many men carried a second handgun taken from German or Italian officers. A Walther PPK was a popular acquisition, practical over sentimental. Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife. This knife existed for one purpose. The Fairbairn-Sykes was designed by 2 former Shanghai municipal police officers who had spent years studying what actually happened when people tried to kill each other at arm's length. The result was a double-edged stiletto blade, 7 inches long, with a foil-style grip that allowed precise thrusting. It was not a utility knife. You did not open, ration tins with it, or cut rope. It was designed specifically to kill silently, quickly, and efficiently, and the 2 men who designed it wrote manuals on exactly how to do that. Every SAS operator was trained in its use. Many wore it in a scabbard strapped to the lower leg or forearm. Some wore 2. The knife became so associated with British special operations that it is still issued today. Lewes bomb. This was a SAS invention and one of the most important pieces of kit in the entire loadout. Jock Lewes, one of the SAS's founding officers, developed it specifically for the problem of destroying aircraft on the ground. Standard explosives either failed to ignite aviation fuel reliably or were too heavy to carry in useful quantities. Lewes's solution was a mixture of plastic explosive, thermite, and motor oil rolled together into a roughly pound-weight charge that both exploded and burned simultaneously. You placed one on an aircraft's wing near the fuel tank, set a time pencil, delay fuse, and walked away. The resulting fire was extremely difficult to extinguish and spread into the fuel. A single SAS patrol could carry enough Lewis bombs to destroy a dozen aircraft, and the time delay fuses meant the men were long gone before anything went up. Rommel reportedly described the SAS as more dangerous than a conventional division. The Lewis bomb is a large part of why. Time pencil fuses and detonators. The time pencil was a chemical delay fuse roughly the size of a pencil, which is where the name came from. Crushing the copper tube at one end broke an internal glass vial of acid that then ate through a wire retaining a spring-loaded striker. When the wire failed, the striker hit the cap and initiated the detonator. The delay varied with temperature and with which variant of pencil you were using, ranging from 10 minutes to 24 hours. Desert heat made them unpredictable. An operator who set a 30-minute fuse in the cool of night might find it ran fast. In the morning warmth, or slow if temperatures dropped unexpectedly. Experienced SAS men factored this in and generally set fuses conservatively. Detonators were kept separately from explosives during movement for obvious reasons and were among the most carefully handled items in the entire kit. Battle dress and Arab headdress. Standard British Army battle dress formed the base layer, rough wool serge trousers and a short blouse-style jacket. In the desert, it was brutally inadequate for the temperature swings, freezing at night and stifling by mid-morning. SAS operators adapted freely. Many wore the Arab keffiyeh headdress to protect against sun, sand, and the particular misery of a desert wind in your face for 8 hours. It was not regulation. Regulation meant very little in the SAS. Operators wore what worked. By the time the unit had been running for a year, a typical operator's personal kit was a patchwork of British, American, German, and locally acquired clothing, chosen entirely on function. Officers who tried to impose uniform standards were largely ignored. Sand-colored beret and cap badge. The beige beret was the SAS's own, worn in garrison and during certain operations. The cap badge depicted Excalibur, the flaming sword of the unit insignia, above the motto, "Who dares wins." Sterling had the motto chosen because he genuinely believed it as an operational philosophy rather than as decoration. The entire unit's approach to warfare rested on the idea that audacity and surprise could substitute for conventional mass. The beret and badge were points of real pride in a unit that otherwise had very little interest in military ceremony. Earning them was understood to mean something specific: desert rations. There was no hot food on a deep penetration raid. The SAS operated on hard biscuits, tinned meat, tinned sardines, dates purchased or traded from Bedouin tribesmen when possible, and tea made over a tiny solid fuel cooker called a Tommy. Cooker when the tactical situation allowed a flame. Dates were genuinely useful, calorie-dense, long-lasting, and available in the Western Desert in ways that British Army supply lines were not. Water was the real constraint. Operators carried as much as the vehicle or their backs could hold and still frequently ran short. Thirst on a desert approach march at the wrong time of year was not an inconvenience. It was a serious operational risk. Men were trained to function with less water than they thought possible. LRDG navigation equipment, the SAS in its early raiding phase, was almost entirely dependent on the long-range desert group to get them where they were going. The LRDG were navigators of extraordinary skill who used sun compasses, theodolites, and dead reckoning to cross hundreds of miles of featureless desert and arrive within acceptable margins of their targets. The sun compass was a British Army instrument designed specifically for desert navigation, where magnetic compasses were unreliable due to vehicle interference. A shadow cast by a central pin fell across a compass rose, calibrated to the sun's bearing at a given time and latitude. Used correctly, it was genuinely accurate over enormous distances. LRDG navigators had the kind of confidence in open desert that most soldiers reserved for mapped roads. Medical kit. The individual field dressing was standard issue, a wound pad and bandage roll in a sealed wrapper, carried in a small pouch on the belt. Beyond that, SAS patrols operating deep behind the lines frequently carried morphine syrettes and additional dressings at the patrol level, because the nearest field hospital was potentially several days of driving away through enemy territory. A man who was badly wounded on a raid had to be treated with what was on hand, and then moved in a vehicle over rough ground for a very long time before anything resembling real medical care was available. This shaped how operators thought about getting hit. Getting hit badly in the deep desert was often a death sentence regardless of what anyone did. The kit was there, but everyone understood its limits. Water bottle and personal equipment. The standard British Army aluminium water bottle held about a pint. In the desert, this was laughably insufficient for a full day's operation, and operators carried additional water in every available container. Jerrycans on the vehicles, repurposed Italian water bottles acquired in the field, personal canteens supplemented by whatever could be scrounged. A mess tin for cooking, a ground sheet, a greatcoat or blanket for the cold desert nights. Personal items were minimal. Letters from home, perhaps. A photograph. The understanding, shared across the unit, that they were doing something that had not been done before, and that very little in the Army's accumulated conventional wisdom applied to what they were attempting. That was the point. For more real breakdowns of elite units, forgotten, battles, and how wars were really fought, subscribe to the channel.